traceable, and reproducible. And not only that, some people have done quite a bit of work with Tableau and Power BI, and they start telling people it's very easy. It's a drag and drop. Actually, it's not. It's easy to start, but it's not easy to achieve certain level of mastery. And eventually, you will realize data structure and algorithm is actually underneath all these data tools, and they follow the exact same logic. So today, we're going to demonstrate, SQL skill and how important it is to you. During the day, I have helped somebody one-on-one. It's amazing, within 2 hours, this gentleman, he didn't have any experience, zero, coding with SQL. But within 2 hours, we successfully introduced some really advanced topics such as, nested query and complex join and even window function. So let's see if we can achieve the same tonight. All right. So okay, sorry. I believe you can hear me now. Okay, right. So why we use SQL problem?
Hey, Eric, you're not sharing your screen.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, you can see that screen now, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So why do we use legal problem? I'm pretty sure some of you have used other resources such as PeopleZoo. Great resource. It's easy to get started. How about W3 Schools? Yeah, I'm pretty sure some of you have used that as well. In my personal opinion, and many people have proved that, legal SQL is probably the best resource you can use to get prepared for coding interview. There are several reasons. One of them, all these problems actually come from the companies indirectly, whoever participated in those tests, and they memorize it, and then they upload the problem. And then a lot more people just jump on it and try to solve it. And then you compare the solutions, and oftentimes you can learn a lot from other people's solution. And the other reason, so it is very close to the kind of test you will likely receive from the employer. And second, most of SQL problems, they come with sample data, and the table structure and the data actually looks very simple, but the underlying logic is not simple at all. So it is very good because when you learn SQL, one of the biggest obstacle is you don't know and you wonder what's going on behind the screen, right? It's not like Excel. What you see is what you get. So SQL feels a little indirect. And if the sample data is simple, it really helps you understand the logic behind it, the entire process. It helps you break down the process into steps. Okay, so with that, we're going to start. And please code with me if you like. Otherwise, I'm going to post the entire script after the session. You could always practice later on. So now you can just sit back and watch. So first of all, if you go inside SQLite, you already see a database over here, right? And there's one table called demo. So if you see this, you can actually run it again. And let me just remove this. Okay. Oh. Stop seeing it. Not interested. Okay. So you see the sample data over here, and you can just drop it. There's a difference between delete and drop. When you delete, it's actually you're deleting the data from the table. The table still exists, but if you drop it, you will drop the data and the table all together. So let's drop it. All right. So let's get rid of this. And when you receive a test from the employer, you should always code it inside an IDE. We have seen quite some people, they submit their code in Word document. That's the worst. Because number one, it's not professional, it's amateur. And number two, it shows that you haven't tested your code. You haven't tested code with the sample data, and that's a red flag. So when you receive a test, you should always go to your IDE. The first step is to create a database, and second step is to create a table, and third step, insert some sample data. And after all this is done, you reconstruct the problem, and then you can start the solution. And it's very bad if you submit your code without testing it first. When the employer received the code, how do they know if you solved the problem? Of course, they will just run it, right? And can you imagine when they run your code, it's full of typos and errors and bugs, and right there you blow your chance. So it's important to follow all these steps and make sure you solve the problem, and you solve the problem with that. So we'll talk about how important it is to solve the problem first, and second, to make sure your code is beautiful and it is professional. It has the readability. Okay. So with that, let me just see. Oh, the data. We will input the data. So Stephanie, data is very simple. It's very easy to input. Okay. So let's start from the first one. Morahan joined what is happening right now. Yeah. So we're using the SQLite as a IDE, and we're solving the problem from LeetCode. So when I go to LeetCode, so if I click database, you will see the database problem, database / SQL problem starting from 175. So why don't we just start with 175? So if you click 175, and you will see the problem over here. Okay, so under 175 combine two tables, you will see the level of difficulty says easy. So this is the first problem, it's an easy problem. And most people don't pay attention to SQL schema. If you click on it, so these are the code that you need to recreate the problem. Like I said, you need to create the table and then insert the sample data into the table, right? And you can just copy from here, but I think it's worthwhile for you to do it from scratch. So then you see two tables. The first one is person, the second one is address. It's my habit. I really want to see the actual data. Otherwise, I don't have a feeling, with the schema. So I can just skip that part, go straight to example. So the same is true, most people don't enjoy reading documentation, and most of the time you would just skip the text and go straight to the example, right? So over here you see two tables, person table and address table. And then person table has three columns, everything about the person. So every table usually has the ID. So this is a person table, you have person ID, and then the last name and first name. And I don't know if you notice the naming convention, and it's really important that you follow the naming convention. What is the naming convention? You see the name of the table person, the first letter is uppercase. But if you look at the column name, so this is called a lower camel case. So you see, if you have person and ID, but without space, the first word, the first letter of the first word is lowercase, but the first letter of the second word is uppercase. The same is true with last name and first name, right? So this is the first table. You have the second table, address table. And in here, you see address ID. But it's interesting that you also see person ID, right? And then the city and state. City and state are about the address, okay? So over here, I want you to see the two data subjects. One is person, and the other one is address. So how do you relate these two? A person has an address, and a person could have multiple addresses, which is true in this case, because you see person ID is a primary key in the person table, meaning every row is a person and person ID is unique. But you also see person ID as a foreign key in the address table, meaning the same person ID can appear in multiple rows. How is that possible? So first of all, you understand that address ID is unique in the address table, right? But same person could have multiple address IDs. Is that possible? That's entirely possible. Because you could have, a lot of times, if you assume the identity. So for instance, if you are, let's say you are Bob Alex, right? So if you're Bob Alex, you think, I have a work address, I could have a home address as well. I have my primary residence. I could have a rental property. So it's possible that one person could have multiple addresses. So I think it's enough of that. So let's recreate the problem in SQLite. So first of all, you need to create table, right? So SQLite is very good. If you start coding, it will automatically turn this to uppercase. So create table. Let's follow the naming convention. So this is person. And then you do opening bracket. And over here, you can start, writing the column name. It's person ID. And right away, you should mention the data type. So the person ID is an integer. You just write int. And then go to the next line, and you will type last name. And this is bar chart. variable characteristics, a variable character. So it's a string, but the length of the string is variable. But there's a maximum length. Let's say it's varchar 255. Is it 255 or 256? Let's just go up here and take a look. So it's usually 255. Okay. So come back here, 255. So comma, so you separate the columns with comma, and first name, and varchar as well, 255. All right. So after that, it's done. So you need to close it with a bracket, and then always end every sentence in SQL with a semicolon. So this is done. So let's create the second table. Create table address. And what do you have? Address ID. It's an integer. So after a while, you get used to it. So this is a person ID. It's also integer. What else? You have a city. So again, follow the naming convention, right? It's a lower comma case. So this is 255, and then state. Oh, sorry. And varchar 255, and then that's it. And you close the entire table with a bracket and then semicolon. So once you create the table, then you can run it. Just make sure it runs. So no problem. Now we need to insert some values. So you always write insert into the table name. What is the table name? Person. And you actually don't have to write the column name if you are going to insert all the columns. But I recommend you still write down the column name just to be clear. So the first one is person ID, right? And what last name? You can just press tab, and to accept the, oh, this should be, I'm a little OCD. So this is first name, all right? And after that, you type values, and then go to the next line. So this is where you can insert several rows. So in this case, I'm going to insert 2 rows. Just remember this. You could wrap all the value within a single quote, or you can treat numbers and text differently. So you just write number as numbers. For instance, this is 1, and you can put single quote, single quote, and this is 1, and then single quote and. So this is the first row, and comma. You use comma to separate, the rows, and this is the second person, and his last name is Aleph, and the first name is Bob. All right, and that's it. And you can use semicolon to finish. So let's insert some value to the second table. So insert into address. Once again, how many columns? 4. So they are address ID, and then person ID, and what else? City and state. That's it. And then type values and start inputting the rows. And the first row is going to be address ID 1 and person ID 2, or 2, and then you can put New York City, New York. So that's New York, city, New York, and separate the rows with a comma. After a while, you remember the syntax or the grammar. You know, when people start out, you make all kinds of mistakes, silly mistakes, spelling errors. No problem, just keep doing it. In fact, you learn the most from debugging. So this is the beauty when you try to communicate with the machine. You have to be really, really accurate. And if it's not right, the machine will not tell you you're good. You know, the machine, it's not like your mother or your teacher in primary school. So the machine will tell you, no, I don't understand. You know, something is wrong. So people learn the most from debugging, from fixing the mistakes they made. Okay. So the second row is address ID 2, and then person ID 3. And this is made up, you know, the city of Nico, and then in California. All right. What happened? Oh, that's because I put a double quote over here. So this is done. So what you need to do is you just run these two new queries. Boom. So now, how do you know? So this is why you feel indirect when you're working with SQL, because you don't know if the data is already in the table. So what you can do, you could always just run a very simple query. Remember, SQL query goes by select from. So you can select. Most people do select start. So let's do select start from. What's first table? That's person. So let's run it. Yay! So you see the first table, person table, and it's the same as in Vico. So let's just change it to address and run it as well. And it's also there. So it's important for you to see, okay? So there are two people. If you read the person ID 1 and 2, and there are also two people in the address ID 2 and 3. And it's interesting, you see one doesn't find an address in the address table, and there's somebody else with the person ID 3 is not found in the person table. So now let's go look at the question. The question asks you to write a SQL query to report the first name, last name, and right away you understand first name, last name come from the person table, and also the city and state, and then you know city and state come from the address table. So you will need to join two tables. There's no doubt. But how? There are many different kinds of join. So if you keep reading, it says, report the first name, last name, city, and state of each person in the person table. That means you need to include everybody in the person table. And keep reading. If the address of a person ID is found, great, bring it back. But if the address of a person ID is not present, is not found in the address table, that's okay too. Just put lol instead. So what kind of join is that? It's pretty clear, right? It's a left join. So let's do that. So what you can do is, it's pretty simple. You want the first name, last name. So you put first name before last name, it's easier to read. So you can take first name and separate the columns. So select columns from table. So first name and then last name. And separate the columns with a comma. And then you take city and state, okay? And so you have to join two tables. So from the first table, let's temporarily call person table the left table. It's the table on the left. So let's put person as the left table. And it's always a good practice to create an alias, a nickname for the table, so it makes it easier to reference later on. So let's just put a P. How do you know? You will just use the first letter of the table name. So in case two tables have the same first letter, and then you will do something else. And sometimes you can just use A and B or X and Y. But let's use P, so it's easier to remember. P for person. And then after that, oops, P. Oh, stubborn. So let me do this. Let's have P over here. And go down here, and we will type left join, left join. All right. Left join the right table, which is address. Let's name it A. And then I always have this. Let me just do this again. Okay. So to make it beautiful, let's do this. Oops. Let's do over here. Okay. So you can put P person ID equal to A person ID. And that's it. So let's run it. You see? So people say, what if I want to do the opposite? Let's do the opposite and see what happens. You don't have to retype everything. I would just suggest you just copy this. Sorry. I'm not used to SQL, but it's convenient. So I'm going to change this to right join. All right, right join. And add this. Let's run this one. So what happened is this query includes all the people in the address table. And for the people you find a match from the person table you included, which is Bob Allen. And if you can't find a match, you could always return null. And I think most of you have heard of full outer join, right? So that means you include everybody from both left and right table. So there are two ways to do that. I'm not sure if I can just use full outer join. Let me try full outer join. I think SQL somehow recognized it. That's right. Yay! Look. So you include all the people from the left and right table. And when you don't find a match for the information you look for, you just return null. And there's another way to do this. So you better restore this. You could always do a union between these two queries. And then you need to get rid of this semicolon, and this becomes one sentence. Okay, let's run it. And yeah, it's the same, just different sequence. So some of you get questions from the employer. What is the difference between join and union? It's quite different, right? Join is you join two tables left and right, and union is you stack two tables up and down. And union basically means you put everything together, without, sometimes you have duplicates, you still put them together. Okay, so this is good. I hope you get this. Let's go to the second problem. Let's do 176. So what you need to do is you just go back and you click 176. Okay. And once again, I really like Nico because it always use a small example to help you understand a big topic. You know, this is a big topic. It's about ranking. It's a ranking problem. So once again, let's just skip this part and let's go straight to the example. So this is even simpler, but trust me, the code and the problem itself is actually not that simple. It's good to work with simple data though, right? So you have an employee table and everything about employee, and it's the employee ID and how much salary the employee makes. So 3 employees in this table with the ID 1, 2, and 3. This must be way back when people made very little, right? So the salary was 100 and 200 and 300. Good. So I understand the table. I have developed a good feeling with the data. So let's look at the question. The question asks you to write a SQL query to report the second highest salary from this table, the second highest. Now, some of you are really quick with math, so you are running that quick math in your mind. So you look at 100, 200, and 300, second highest, 200. You know, I always ask people, you know, don't rush it, don't be so quick. I know you have a process, you just don't realize it. So let's break down the process into steps, okay? So in your mind, you can solution this problem in multiple ways. I'm going to introduce 3 ways. The first way, which is foolish, but I want to introduce it anyway. It's very easy to calculate. So the highest is the maximum, right? The highest is the maximum, but it's asking for the second highest. So it sounds like the second maximum. So let's start with the maximum. It's very easy to do maximum, right? So you can just do a max, put a max around salary, you will get 300. So what if we do this? What if we kick out the 300, we delete the maximum, and then you still have 100 and 200 left. How about let's do another maximum of the remaining 2 numbers? Is that the second highest? It is, right? Okay, so that's the first solution. Let's just park that. The second solution involves some sorting. You know, in Excel, you use sort, right? You can sort from highest to lowest and lowest to highest. When you sort from highest to lowest, it's called descending. When you sort from lowest to highest, it's called ascending, right? So it's asking for the second highest. We need to sort the salaries from the highest to lowest. So after you sort the list, so it becomes 300, 200, 100. What do you do next? So it's asking for the second highest. Then you need to skip the highest, right? You need to skip 1 row and you go to the second row. And then you just pick that second row, which is the second highest. So this is the second solution. I hope you follow me. And there is the third solution, which is in addition to sorting, you can rank the salaries. So after I sort the salary in descending order from the highest to the lowest, and then you have 300, 200, 100, right? How about you label each value? So you put 301, 202, and 103. So you can rank them. And then if it is asking for the second highest, and then you can just pick the row with the rank number 2. If I change the question, if I ask for the third highest, what do? You don't have to change anything before the last step, but you change the last step to you pick the salary with the rank number being 3, right? So I think this is clear. So let's code. And would you like to repeat? Create table. Let's do this one more time. It doesn't take that much time. Just so you can get familiar with the number as well, right? So there's only one table. Let's create. But to make this clear, this is 175. 175. This is 175. Let's actually get the name of the question. Or somehow it changed the color. Never mind. So the second question is 176. Let's do that as well. Okay, so let's start coding. So you can create table. So you always do this when you receive a task from the employer. So you need to create database and then create table, and then insert some sample data, and then start the solution. So this is what employee table, follow the naming convention. And there are only 2 columns, ID, it's an integer, and column, and salary, also integer, there's no cents. So, and oops, it always has that. So let's close this. I'm going to change this to integer. All right. And that's it. So let's run this query. This should run. Yeah, it runs. So let's insert some value. Insert into employee, the table name, right? And then you put within bracket. So, oh, sorry. You should actually do the column and salary, and then you put values. And let's just input 3 rows of data. So because these are all numbers, you don't have to put them within single quote. So that's a lot easier. Just comma, and then you have 200, and it's very simple. And 3 and 300. And after this, you put a semicolon, right? So now you already reconstruct the problem, right? So let's run this. All right. How do you know if you got the data right? You could always do select, start from what is table name employee, semicolon, and run it. You got it right. Okay. Let's try the first approach. Solution 1. Oh, you know what? Let's just set up later. The first solution is let's find the max first. Let's find the max. So let's select. Oh, you know what? Let's just change it. You want to find the max. Let's do max. What is it? Salary. Select max salary from employee, right? That's correct. So let's, we are expecting 300. Yeah, you get 300. So now you're going to type select max again. Let's do max salary from employee, right? And now I need to put a where condition. Let me just get more rows so you can see this better. So let's put a where condition. So where condition help you select the rows that satisfy the condition. So let's do where. What's the condition? So you want to make sure the salary is less than or not in, maybe it's the same. So I'm going to indent this. Keep going. All right. So I'm going to backspace over here, and then you just wrap this one number within bracket. And then this should work, right? This should work. Let's try. We'll have to make it beautiful. Let's make it beautiful. All right. Let's run. It's correct. But we need to rename this to make it descriptive. Let's rename the second. Let's follow the naming convention. Second highest salary, right? And let's run this again. Yay! But you may change the question. You may ask you, what is the third highest salary? What do? You know, or you do another one, query within query within query, and that start to look foolish. So this is not a very good solution. So let's try the second solution. Let's sort the salary. So what you need to do, it's actually very, very straightforward. So what you need to do is select salary. Oops. And then from employee. What you need to do is order by. So let's do order by. Let's make it beautiful. Salary. Wait. In this case, we need to sort the salary in descending order. So let's do descending. Let's run this first. It's correct, right? It's sorted in descending order from the highest to the lowest. So I'm going to introduce limit offset. Okay. So what happened is, if you want to bypass the first one, so it's asking for the second highest, you need to bypass, you need to skip one, skip the highest. So then you put skip one after offset. So you need to offset one. And you start from the second row. How many rows you want to show? Only one, right? So you put one here. So it's limit one, offset one. Let's try it. Once again, let's change this to second highest salary. Let's do this. Yeah, it works. So what if I ask you the third highest? That means you need to skip two, right? You start from the third and you pick only one row. So you need to change this to 2, and then you run it. Yeah, it works. Okay, so let's put it back. The third solution is actually the best. I tell you why. Because we're going to use window function. And you know, most of the time when I ask people how good is your SQL, you know, how comfortable, you know, you work with SQL. So I'm pretty comfortable. I'm a pretty advanced user. And then I ask people, do you know window function? Because that's what the employer often asks you. And if you say, window function, what's that? And then right away, the employer will say, oh, so you're a junior. And it's quite judgmental, isn't it? So if you know window function, you're a senior. If you don't know window function, you're a junior. Doesn't matter how people think, but if you know it, I think you're very, very motivated to learn window function. So window function is just one way for you to impress the employer. So let's start it with window function. How do we do that? So let's start with select. And let's just do the same other way. Let's put select salary, and then from employee table. All right. What else? So what we will do is this. So we're gonna add another column. So we are going to use window function. Window function is function over a window. Just remember that, function over a window. So this function is called dense rank. Dense rank. In fact, let me just introduce a simpler one, because for this example, we can just use row number maybe. Let's use a row number instead. Okay, let's do row number. Yeah, let's just uppercase row number. I hope this works, hopefully. So this is a function over a window. So this is a window. So this entire table is a window. So what we need to do is we will just put the same wording. So we'll put order by. Okay, sorry, order by salary descending. What this means is you're going to sort the salary from the highest to the lowest. And then what you will do is you start giving them the row number. So the first row is 1, the second row is 2, right? So on and so forth. So let's give this a name. Let's call it num, right? Let's run this. Let's try to run this. You see that? It's beautiful. It's working. So what you need to do, because the question is asking for the second highest, it's simple, right? You will just need to pick the row with num equal to 2, right? And if people ask for the third highest, it's simple, right? You will just need to pick the row with num equal to 3. So what you will do is this. So you will select what? Salary. And then name it second highest salary, right? And then from this whole thing, so you will, let's type from first, and then you're going to indent this, and then you type the bracket, so let's backspace, and this, you are going to wrap the whole thing over here, and let's see if this works. It actually works, but we'll need to put a condition, just one more condition. What is it? It's where num equal to 2, right? So let's run it, see if it works. Yeah, very, very straightforward. And if I ask for the second highest, change this to 3. So in fact, any rank, if I ask for the 25th highest, just change this to 25. This is very, very easy to do. Okay. All right. How's everyone doing? So let's do the third problem. Oh, before you do that, let me just show you something. Let me show you this. Okay. So you see that this is slightly different. So when you look at the salary, and this is, I apologize. So the phone is ringing. So you see the salary is already sorted in descending order from the highest to the lowest. You see 300, 200, 200, 100. But in order to complicate things, and I think you noticed that already, you see 200 appear twice, right? Okay, so what window function do we use? You could use, so the answer is depends. It depends on what you want to do. So we already use row number. You could also use rank. You could also use dense rank. And when you don't have a type, and this, all three of them will return the same result. But when you have a type, when you have two salary being the same, and they will behave differently. So the row number will return just row number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and the rank will return 1, 2, 2, and 4. You see, there's a hole, right? There's a hole, and the dense rank is denser, and there's no hole. So you will return 1, 2, 2, and 3. Yeah. So if you pick dense rank being 2, you're going to receive, 2 salaries. So to really make this correct, if you want to accommodate this situation, you probably need to do distinct salary. So like in this case, you want to do distinct, and here as well, distinct, right? So you will just return one number, okay? Okay, and everybody follow? So I'm going to do problem 182. So how about the time? So already 1 hour. You see, the following questions are also very interesting, and it's amazing. Within 2 hours, we can start to touch advanced topic. So for instance, we already did one window function. We're going to do another one. And we already did, join. So we did left join, right join, and full outer join and union. And we're going to do something more complex. Okay. So this is the following question is not that complex, but I assure you, you're going to see this over and over and over again. So it's always good to have something, in your memory. And this is the thing, over time you will realize you don't have to do that many LeetCode problems. You only need to do some typical LeetCode problems. But then you realize many other questions are just variations of the same type of question. So for instance, you will need to do ranking. You will need to do nested query. You will need to do, maybe left join and right join. And you will need to find duplicate emails. So we're going to find duplicates. So if you want to make sure this is the primary key, and you have to make sure it doesn't have any duplicate, right? So this same query will work for you in many different situations. So let's go back here. Let's go to question 182, duplicate emails. And once again, let's just skip the description, go straight to the example. So this is a person table, very, very simple. So the person has an ID and the person has an email, okay? So we have 3 people. I don't know if there are 3 people. Please take a look. But you do see 3 IDs, 1 and 2 and 3. But when you look at the emails, this is A@B.com. This is C@D.com. And you see A@B.com again. Is, I don't know, are 1 and 3 the same person? Probably. And you know what? This is a huge problem for most organizations. If they don't have a good system of record, they're going to create duplicate problems, you know? And duplicate problems sometimes can cost organizations millions of dollars to fix. I'm not kidding, because you don't know, which source of the information is correct, is more correct. So people end up, fighting and arguing with each other. Okay, so we need to create a solution for that problem. So over here, I think it's pretty straightforward. So let's just go back to here and let's just replicate the problem. Find duplicate emails. And this is not too much effort. Let's just do create table and insert value. Create table, it's person. So we already have a person. So let's drop it. So in fact, let's drop all of them. Okay, so create table person, 2 columns, ID, it's an integer, email, it's a voucher, and 250, is it 256 or 255? Always forget, 255, 255, all right? And then let's close it. So let's insert into person table, 2 columns, ID, email. And then let's insert some values. It's always good to test the query with some sample data. So let's do the first one is ID1, and then within single quote, a@b.com. All right. Oh, sorry. We all make mistake. All right. The second one is what? 2. And it's c@d.com. It's just made up data. So one more. We just need 3 rows to create the problem. That's just beautiful. I love LeetCode. So it's the same email, a@b.com. So we create a problem. So let's just run it to create. So whenever you write some code, you could always test it as you go along. You don't have to write everything and then and test like 200 lines of code, and that becomes more difficult. So as you write, you start testing. So how do I learn? So you could always just do select and start, and from what? From person. Okay, so let's run it. Seeing is believing, right? Okay, so these 2 are duplicate. So how do we find duplicate? So we need to count, right? We need to count the emails. What you need to do, you will need to use group by. So now you have, previously you had select from, there's no condition, but you need a group by. Okay, so let's just put the content over here. So I will need email for sure, right? And then from person, and you will need to group by email as well. So just remember, whatever appear over here after group by, it needs to appear here in the select statement. All right, and if it doesn't show up here, you need to perform some kind of operation on them. So for instance, the next one is, I want to count start. I will explain a little after. Can I count anything? Can I count one? Can I count 100? Doesn't really matter. You can count email. You can do that too, right? So let's just try this. So how's this? You have this email a@b.com, you see 2. And c@d.com, you see only 1. So these are occurrences. So once again, this doesn't matter. You can put star. It's the same. It's counting the number of rows, right? You can put ID. It's the same. It's just counting the number of rows. So let's just put star, okay? So we need to find the duplicates. Can you define duplicate? That means this count is greater than 1, right? It's greater than 1. So this is a condition. Can we use where? You cannot use where. For aggregates, you have to use a different statement. You have to use having. And having goes after group by. Just type having. And then you can do count start and what? Greater than 1. Let's do that. So then you only see a@b.com and it appeared twice and it's greater than 1. So then you don't need this anymore, right? You can just get rid of this and get rid of the comma. Hey, you solved the problem. So you can use the same query. So for any table, if you really want to find if the ID is unique, it's very simple. Just put the ID over here, right? From that table and group by the ID and use the aggregate condition having count start greater than 1. And if this returns nothing, it is telling you that ID is unique, right? Do you like it? Okay, good. So let me just check the time. Let's do something more interesting and more complex. Let's do 183. I really, really love LeetCode. All right, so 183, let's go back to LeetCode. 183, it's an easy question. I actually don't think this question is that easy. In fact, the combined 2 tables is easy. Second highest salary. This is actually median. What else did we do? Duplicate emails, it's easy. Fine, it's easy. But let's do 183. So for 183, once again, let's just skip the schema, go straight to the example. 2 tables, customers table and orders table. Okay, let's just try our best to know the customers so we know the data. So we have 4 customers, right? Their IDs are 1, 2, 3, and 4. And ID doesn't mean anything, so it's much better if we know the customer by name. So they are Joe, Henry, Sam, and Max. Okay, so with that, let's go to the second table. The second table is the orders table. And you notice that the customer ID, so this is the customer ID, right? ID in the customers table is the customer ID. And this is also the customer ID, not this, the customer ID in the orders table. What do you see? 3 and 1. Again, the customer ID doesn't mean anything until you join these 2 tables. In your mind, you're joining these 2 tables. Oh, 3 and 1. Let's go look for 3 and 1. So 3 is Sam and 1 is Joe. So Joe and Sam have ordered something, right? Joe and Sam have placed orders. So these two data objects, you can put some action, action verb between them. So customers place orders, right? Customers place orders. Who place orders? 3 and 1, Sam and Joe. And then who didn't place any order? Easy, right? Henry and Max. So you already solved the problem in your mind. But hey, that's because this data is simple enough, right? So you can just eyeball them. But imagine if you have a huge table with millions of records, and then it's not that easy. But the logic is the same. The logic is exactly the same. And that's why I love LeetCode, only because they make a complex problem so easy to grab, Okay, so with this understanding, how do we solve this problem? I think some of you already sense that we need to do join. Yeah, we need to join these two tables. But what kind of join? Left join? Yeah, it is left join, but it's tricky though. It's very, very tricky. Let me just show you something. I hope I can get this table. So in fact, let me just show you an Excel I create. Hey guys, if you want this Excel, I can send it to you. Not this tab, but this tab. Okay, so I just create this Excel, and you have all the SQL/database problem, right? And across, I classify the problem into different types. So you see, you have the level of difficulty, and other than that, you have frequency, you have basic, you have a rank join subquery, advanced join, advanced subquery, case when or if, and offset fetch, and pivot and pivot. This is very advanced. Recursive city is advanced, and SQL command and variable is advanced. Window function is advanced. Okay. So, sorry, this is not what I want to show you. But if you want this, I can send it to you anyway. I want to show you SQL. This is another one I did. So I actually put all the solutions for SQL in one spreadsheet. So I just want to show you join. Let's tab number 6. So let's go to tab number 6. So this is what I want to show you. The SQL join. So these are the most common SQL joins. This is inner join. This is left join. This is right join. We did this and this. We also did this full outer join. We are going to do this. Okay. So what is this? This is also a left join, except the overlapping part is missing. Right? So you want to include everything from A only if it's not found in B. Okay? Only if it's not found in B. This sounds very abstract. Okay? So imagine A, the left table are all the customers, right? And B are the customers who placed order. But we want to find out the customers who didn't place order. So you have to take this part out, right? So it's all the customers minus the customers who placed the order, right? Okay, so let's just go back. Let's reconstruct the problem. All right, so it's 183. And it's pretty easy. Let's just do that. Anyways, let's create table. What's the table? First table is customers. 2 columns, ID. It's an integer. And the second column is name. Varchar 255. And that's it. So let's close it. with semicolon. Let's create a second table. Create table. It's table name orders. Oh, hang on. We need to follow the naming convention. And how many columns? 2 columns. So the first one is ID. This is not customer ID. This is order ID. Okay, INT. And the other column is customer ID. It's actually customer ID. And this is also integer. Oh, it always have that problem. Let's close it first and change this to integer. All right. Let's insert some values. Insert into this is what, customers? Yeah, customers. And columns, yeah, without the data type, ID and name. Okay, and values. Let's insert how many customers? 4. So the first one is 1. Within a single quote, that's Joe. And separate the rows with comma. And then 2. And single quote, Henry. All right. And ID 3, Sam. And the last one, 4, Max. Okay, let's close it. The second table, insert into over. Orders. All right, and ID and customer ID. All right, that's 2 values. Wait, so 2 records or 2 rows. The first one is 1 and 3, and you have to tell which is which. So this is the order ID 1 and customer ID 3, right? Oh, hang on. This is comma, and then you have 2 and 1. All right. So let's finish the sentence. All right. Let's just run these 4 sentences, 4 queries. How do I look? I got the data right. You could always do select start and from what? Customers. Easy, right? Let's just double check. Now, as you code, you test. Okay. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, Joe, Henry, Sam, and Max. So let's change this to orders. Yeah. Okay. So let's solve the problem now. There are 2 ways to solve this problem. First, let's do left join. Let's do left join, and let's include the ID, customer ID from the orders table. Let's see if we can find them, right? So what you can do is you can select. You definitely need the name of the customer, so you can type select name, comma. What else do you need? What else do you need? You will need, as I said, customer ID. And from, you will need to put the left table first, which is customer. Is it customers? Customers, right? So let's do a left join. And then orders, right? Orders. All right. Let's put alias. This is a C. Oh, this is what? This is an O. All right. And we need to join them on. So let's make it beautiful. On what? on C dot ID equal to O dot customer ID, correct? Yeah, it's correct. So let's run this and see what happens. Hey, you see all the customers from the left table, and then 1 and 3, you find matches from the orders table. But Henry and Max, you couldn't find a match. So what are you looking for? You're actually looking for Henry and Max, right? Being null. So I think it starts to become clear to you. What you need to do is put a condition. So you will need to do a where condition. So you can simply type where. And then what you need to do is put O, and customer ID is no. Right? Right. So let's run this one more time. You see, it's no. So now you don't need customer ID anymore. We can just get rid of it. And then you solve the problem, right? And there is a different way to solve this. So what you can do is you can find the customer ID that appears in the orders table. And then you can create a condition and you find the name from the customers table where the ID is not in the orders table. Can we do that? Yes, absolutely. So what you can do is you can type the first part, select what? Select name. So in fact, let's make this, you know what? Let's make this name more descriptive. Let's give it a different name, customer. So if I run this one more time, it actually look better, right? So this is customer. So this let's do the same. Let's name it customer. And from what? From customer table. And that's it. Let's do the second part. Let's select what? Let's select customer ID from orders table. Right. And be careful with that, because in the orders table, customer ID is a foreign key, meaning customer ID can appear more than once. So you will have to do something like distinct to make it unique. Okay, I hope that is easy for you to understand. So let's just test both of them. So if you run this, you get all the names from the left table. If you run this, you get all the ID from the orders table, all the distinct custom ID from the orders table. So what you can do is you put a condition over here where an ID is not in, right? So now let's just remove this 9 and let's indent this. All right. Let's backspace and let's put a bracket around the second query and put a semicolon over here. Let's run it. Yeah, same result, but different approach. I hope you guys are doing okay. Are you still with me? All right. I don't want to bore you down, and we still have 30 minutes left, but I really want to solve one more problem. And this is where you start to see some complexity, and it's question 185. Yay. All right, so let's just go back to Nico. Let's go back one page, 185. Man, we have a hard question. Okay, let's do a hard question. Once again, I'd like to skip the schema and go straight to the examples. So guys, please focus, concentrate, and follow me. Let's take a look at the first table, employee table. And once again, let's know the employees by name. So we start to develop a good feeling, with the employees. We have 7 employees. Let's say it's a startup, 7 employees. And the ID is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And employee number 1 is Joe. So now you have Henry and Sam and Max and Janet and Randy and Will. And you have their salary. These are very well-paid employees. And then you have the department ID. How many departments? I think those of you who pay attention will answer right. So you will say 2, because you only see 1 and 2. You don't count the duplicates, right? Only 2 department IDs. And once again, the ID doesn't make any sense until you go to the second table, which is the department table. So once again, department table has 2 department IDs, 1 and 2. And 1 is IT and 2 is sales. Oh, let's go back. How many employees, how many people work in IT? So you start counting, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 people working IT. And how many people work in sales? 1 and 2. Only 2 people work in sales. So this must be a tech company. It has more developers than sales. Let's look at a question. The company's executives, very, very high level boss, are interested in seeing who earns the most money in each of the departments. Uh-oh, I don't know if you have a good feeling or a bad feeling. So the question asks, in each department, please find the top 3 earning employees, the 3 most expensive employees in each department. What is it, the executives trying to do, in this market. You start to develop a weird feeling. So I don't know, maybe they want to let go of the most expensive employees just to cut costs, maybe. But whatever the thought, I think the more you think about this, you feel like you understand this data better. Okay, so let's do that. Oh, in fact, let's just take a look at IT. The top 3 employees who make the highest salary. Okay, so right away you can eyeball it, right? You see Max making 90K. Who is second? Or you see both Joe and Randy making 85. That's already 3, right? So Max, Joe, and Randy. So we start to pull out names. What about sales department? You don't even need to look at the salary because it has only 2 people and maybe, both of them will have to go. All right. So with that, let's go back to, that's a dirty job your boss asked you to do. Okay, let's just go back to SQL Lite. So let's recreate a problem. You know what? To save time, let's just do this. Let me just copy paste. All right. So I have it. Create table in employee. So let's just run a check. Do we have conflict? You know what? Just to make it simple, let's just drop it. Drop the 3 table. Oh, did I do delete? Let's do drop. And remember the difference between delete and drop, right? Okay. So now Let's look at the code again. Create table employee, create table department, insert into employee, 7 employees, and insert into department, 2 department. So let's run them. The full query. How do you know? So let's test. So select start from employee semicolon. And yeah. Okay, let me just make it. Yeah, you see them, right? Good. So let me just some more empty columns, lines. So what about this second table? So it's department. Let's run it. Yeah. Okay. So let's do the problem. So we will need to get the top 3. So whenever you see top, right, the highest, the lowest, the bottom, it implies it's a ranking problem. Okay. So remember what we did. We use window function. Let's use the window function one more time. So what do we need? We probably will need department, we'll need employees, and we'll need their salary, and we'll need to sort them and rank them, right? But here is the complexity. So you will have to sort the employees within their department. Can window function handle that? Absolutely. A window function is super, super powerful. So let's do that. Let's select, we don't have department in the employee table, but we do have department ID. So let's just bring department ID. So we have department, now we need name. So this is the name of the employee. What else? Salary. And from the first table, employee. All right. So let's run this first and make sure, as you code, you test. So this is good. So what you need to do, and we need to add another column. Let's do a window function. Remember, window function is a function over a window. So let's do the function. Let's use dense rank. Dense underscore rank. So it doesn't automatically convert this to uppercase. Let's do uppercase then. Dense rank. Okay. And opening bracket, closing bracket. And let's do over. And then a window. So in this window, we need to do 2 things. First, we need to divide the entire table into 2 departments. So that can be achieved by writing partition by, partition, let's just uppercase, partition, and by what? By department ID. And then after that, you want to do the order by what? By salary. So in this case, you need to specify descending. If you don't specify, by default is ascending. Okay. Now after this, let's just run it. It's amazing. And there's just one thing you want to fix, because this, write the whole description, that's just too long. Let's just rename this to none. Let's run it one more time. So you have it. So do you see that? This is just so beautiful. Because first of all, you divide the table into 2 departments. So this is the first department. You see the ranking 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, right? And then the ranking start again because it's a different department. You have 1 and 2. And so that is exactly the ranking or the order that the salary show up, right? So what you need to do now is you will need to join this with department. Why do we need to join with department? Because you don't want to see the department ID, you want to see the department name. Okay, so for that, you have to do what join? You need to do a inner join. So what you need to do is you just go up. Let's do the join first. So you want to wrap the whole thing, and name this E maybe. I think SQL doesn't require you to do that. Just do this, and this is a table. This is a table. So you want to join this. You want to do an inner join. And then you go to another line. Inner join what? Sorry. This is department. Okay. So in fact, let's do an alias. Let's call this E because it's easier to reference. So this is a D, right? And then again, let's make this beautiful. So this is what E dot department ID, is it? Yeah, department ID equal to D ID, right? Awesome. Okay. So once you have this, you will do select. Wait. Oh, what am I doing? Select what? So now we need department. So that's a D and it's a name. Once again, name is not descriptive. Let's change it to department. All right. So the second column is the employee's name. So E dot name. And once again, let's make it more descriptive. Employee. Let's do that. All right. And the third one is E, salary. All right. And then you could do a what from. All right. So let's just the stage. Awesome. So hope this will run. It's not done. It's not finished. Let's run this first. All right. So you see department and the employee and the salary. I didn't include the none, but because you don't need it, and you can include it if you want. But it's more important that to include that in the work condition. So the work condition need to be where none, E dot none is less than and equal to 3, isn't it? So let's try this query. Oh, it actually brings 4 people from IT only because you have the ID, right? Sorry, the salary being a tie, right? But let's just check if this is what the problem is asking. Top 3 unique salaries. Top 3 unique salaries. That is true. A company's executive is interested in seeing who earns the most money in each of the company's department. And a high earner. Okay. Is it in order? Okay. So that's a good question. We need to make sure this is in order. You could do an order by over here. But when you execute this is in order. But why, when you do a join, you lose that order. And it's actually better to have that order, right? So what we could do is you could do an order by again. Order by long. So this actually fix that. Oh, wait. This is not right. So you have to do order by the department ID first, and then none. What is that? So that's the department ID. You could do E dot department ID, or you can do D dot ID. Doesn't matter. Yeah. So you get the top earning people. I want to show you something at the end. So if you're not sure this is the most beautiful, what you can do is you go to a website called SQL Formatter. Okay, and I want you to remember this and bookmark it. So you can copy paste this code and see what you're getting. Yeah, it's very similar, right? I think you're doing well. I mean, we're doing well. All right. So this marks the end of the SQL drill. Some of you may ask, if this, the basic stuff you're offering in your bootcamp. Let me tell you, this is probably the first session we have with the student one-on-one, just to prepare them for the bootcamp. It's what we call pre-camp. It's the pre-camp training, just to get the students warmed up, so they form a good habit. And the students come from different kinds of background. Some did SQL before, some didn't, and some had zero coding experience. So much like the student I help today, when we started the 2 hour, he absolutely knew nothing about SQL. But throughout the 2 hours, we started to touch some really advanced topic, and there is a really, really good way using Pico, because he actually didn't feel that intimidated by coding. And for sure, he made all kinds of silly mistakes. Everybody made mistakes from the beginning. And that's how you learn. That's how you learn. But I want to tell you that during the pre-camp, and we'll introduce, the most common topics, and you will practice a lot. So Nico SQL, let me just show you the real deal over here. So yeah, this is Nico. You see, we have about 2,000 lines, right? How much we did today? And this is bad coding, not very good coding, not bad, but not very good, because I try to code everything in one line, and I just want to save space. So if I code properly, and this is probably 4,000 lines, or even maybe 8,000 lines. So this includes all the SQL problem and all the solution. The question is, can you do this by yourself? Oh, sure you can. And the question is, what if you don't know how to solve the problem? You can look at the solution. And what if you don't even understand the solution? So then that's the problem. And it's not coding. It's the logic behind the coding that you will need to learn. And it's called data structure. It's called algorithm. So once you understand how data is structured, and then you can come up with the process and steps to solve some business problem, right? So these are the kind of skills we teach students, and we always use actual real case. So Nico is just part of what we drill, during the bootcamp, and we'll keep doing it. So most students will finish easy and medium, and they start working on hard. As you can imagine, our graduates, when they graduate, they will have no problem, passing the employer's coding and coding tests. They will feel very, very confident. Not only that, they have a very good coding habit. They write good, readable, production quality code. So, like I said, you not only need to solve the problem, you have to provide the best solution that runs fast. You use the least memory, right? And you have to use window function. I'm just kidding. So SQL is extremely important. Let me just show you something else. Let me just bring. So by the way, we teach students to code on the cloud. For instance, we'll teach students different databases like BigQuery on GCP, Google Cloud Platform. We also make students work on Azure, work on AWS. Let me just show you a different environment. SQL Server, how about SQL Server? And let me just do Windows search. So SQL Server Management Studio. How about that? Okay, let me just run this. Yeah. So all our students need to write on their resume, multiple most popular database systems, including MySQL, which is Oracle, and including SQL Server, which is Microsoft, and Postgre and MongoDB, you name it. Okay, so let me just connect. All right. So let me just show you maybe one database. Let's try to look at this database, Composto Retail Data Warehouse. And see, this looks more like production environment, this looks more like a real database. Why? Let me just bring up the SQL query. Open recent, do we have recent? Yeah, recent file. Okay, Contoso SQL. I know, the first time if I give you this, probably you will feel overwhelmed, but it's nothing to worry about. Once you understand the data structure and the relationship between tables within a database, and you'll feel much, much more comfortable. So what's important is for you to really get behind the tables and columns and really understand the schema. Do we have a schema over here? Let me just open the database diagram. Let's take a look at this. Yeah. So this is just a simple way to look at the schema. You see, I simplified all of this. Why? I only include the keys, but nothing else. But you still see the relationship is a lot more complex than what we see today, right? So you have all these, not just tables, you also have views. You also have views, right? So views are like temporary copy of the table, right? And you don't up them real time. Probably you stage the data into the views and every week, every month. Okay, but if you go back and look at the query, some of this becomes like this one. I don't know. So this like create a view. This is one query. Is it complicated? Not quite, because if you break it down, each step is actually quite clear. So I just want to show you. If you go back to, so for instance, we make students solve the problems on the fly. So for instance, coffee chain, it's the same thought, right? Create a database, create 1, 2, 3, 4 tables. Yeah. So let me do this. I think I already did. So you create the tables, but over here, you're reading data from local info. So you can read the data from your local drive. And after that, you start solving the problem. The first problem, the second problem, you start to solve this problem. Some of this problem takes a little more effort to solve. See? Now we use window function, you see? Window function, and the window function is a must-have, dense rank, you see? All right. So if you go behind all this, there's a way. If you click database, reverse engineer, just wait. And then, all right, this is MySQL. And go to next. Go to next. Which one? Copy chain. Next. Execute. Okay, let's just pause. Take a moment. Finish. So you see, even this is a simple data model. And you always remember first lesson we had a week ago, working with Excel. So it's similar. In fact, I have that. Let me just show you this first. So you have product, you have location, and you have a date, and then you have the fact table, right? So dimension table, fact table, and fact table surrounded by dimension table. That's the star schema. So in fact, anyone who attended last Friday's lesson, let me just go back. Don't save. Let me do this one more time. Database, reverse engineer. Wait, next. Next. Superstore. Okay. Next. Execute. Next. Finish. All right. Same thing, right? You see? I don't know if there's a way to automatically organize this. Doesn't look like it. But you see, I have who, customers, what. Do we have products? Yeah, we have products. There's a what. And where do you have when? Let's do when. Where? Location. And then the manager sitting on top of location because these are the regional sales manager. And then you have orders, and then you have order details. There you go, right? So a bunch of dimension table and two fact tables, and fact table surrounded by the dimension table. Sometimes you put the dimension tables around the fact table. If it's simple, I like to put all the dimension tables at the top and the fact table at the bottom. And you know, it's just clear when you look at it. Okay, do we have any questions? Yes or no? Yes or no? So 3 more minutes. I like to do a little promotion. So we teach the most essential data tools, including advanced Excel, SQL, Python, Tableau, Power BI. And some people feel very overwhelmed by this because even Excel, you can learn Excel months after months after months, there is no end. But I tell you, that is the wrong approach to learning anything. And the right approach is to take row-based training. I repeat, row-based training. Because an accountant use Excel differently, you know, than a data engineer or data analyst or business intelligence engineer. Only because different row requires you to use different features of any data tool. But once we define the row in the context of the industry, company, process, and function, and then the row, it's much easier to know what are the 20% essential features of any data tool that you definitely need to master in order to do the job. You know, even more realistically, in order to get the job, right? So we teach that. We teach you just enough to pass the interview, to get the job, or once you start the job and build the career, you still need to learn. But this is very important because along the way, everything you learn will be useful and there's no throwaway. And at the same time, the whole journey, you will feel challenged enough, but also very interesting. And everything we learn, like today, you know, when I had that one-on-one with the new student, he said, oh, this is amazing because I learned how to communicate with a machine. And everybody has heard of ChatGPT. That's machine trying to learn the natural language and communicate with us. You know what's more powerful? It's humans trying to learn how to communicate with the machine and using the language of the machine. You know, SQL is just one of them. Because once you learn this, and if you can give the machine clear instruction, the machine will do everything and anything you ask it to do, right? And you are not just yourself, you are supercharged by a computer, not just the computer, but the entire ecosystem on the cloud. Because if you need the resources, you can easily get the resources to process and to do whatever work you want the machine to do. So I just want to leave you with this thought. Elon Musk said, in order to beat the machine, you better merge with the machine. Doesn't matter if you study computer or if you study engineering or science, or if you study business, accounting, finance, economics. And everybody, I think there is no escape. Everybody will need to learn how to communicate with the machine, because that way you will not be replaced by the machine. Rather, you work with the machine and you get the best of both worlds. So I hope everybody enjoyed the session. And I'd love to meet some of you if you really want to continue this conversation. And once again, I'm not sales, but I have the passion to really help people learn and help you improve. And the most important thing is to help you find a data job in the data space and start building a data career. Okay, so I'm going to conclude the presentation and stop here in case anyone has any questions. Maybe one or two questions before we go out and shovel the snow. From SA, thank you so much for the great session, Eric. Can you please share the Nico Excel file you showed? I will. Can you please send me an email to connect? So this is my email address. WeCloudData.com. So I'm going to send this to everybody. Okay. And feel free to connect with me. This is my business. This is also my passion, and your wish is my command. Okay. So enjoy the snow shoveling, and I will talk to some of you later. Thank you. Thank you. Bye for now.